The third talk on the third noble truth deals with how we integrate it into our lives, how we live it, how we live this truth. So in many ways, for me, it's one of the key talks because when we talk about how to integrate and live the third noble truth, we're really talking about how we live awakening, how we live our true from a place of our true nature. So it's really where the whole practice, where the rubber hits the road, really with the entire practice. So it's knowing that you know freedom or the cessation of suffering. It's knowing that you know this, and you know it, so you live it. It shifts you in an inner way in how you relate, and it also shifts in an outer way how you act in the world. So it has this internal and external aspect to it. It involves, of course, it involves, not being reactive to our habitual reactive tendencies, where we might react when somebody says something or something happens. These old habits that we have, of course, it means that, but it goes truly and deeply, knowing that goes beyond that to, I would say, love or metta, and wisdom or prajna, to use the Pali words metta and prajna. That those two things really come together in the way that we relate internally and to the world. And this is in just, I know many of you know this, but it's I've said it before, it's not an intellectual knowing. It's this prajna, this wisdom is a deeper knowing, a knowing that resonates from our very being. And that's what I was pointing to in the guided meditation, is really sensing in, dipping below the surface chatter of the mind. Just think of dipping below that surface chatter and sensing into the stillness that's there. We don't have to create it. There's a stillness there that we can sense into at any time. It's always present. In fact, we do sense into it as thousands of times. we just overlook it. We don't know that we're in that. We've sensed into and touched that place. I'll give you some pointers through this talk. And I think that's why it's such an important talk, is it allows anybody to taste freedom. You don't have to even have meditated for 40 years or at all. So that freedom can be touched, tasted, whatever word we want to use, and then can be taken into how we live our lives. So it's knowing that we don't know. So don't know is a critical aspect of this. Ralph Waldo Emerson, a quote: "Knowledge is knowing that we cannot know." That we cannot know. I love the way he puts that. So it's not just not knowing. The Buddha called it not knowing, and Zen they call it beginner's mind. I like that we cannot know. it's because it points to there's no use trying to know, because we can't know. I mean, one thing is certain: the next moment is going to be different from the previous moment, which is going to be different to the next moment. It'll all be different. And it's all unpredictable. We can't know what's going to unfold next. Of course, the ego mind really wants that control and predictability. And that's what we keep, grasping onto. All the grasping and pushing away is really the ego mind trying to control what's arising, control what is. It's struggling with reality. In fact, without struggle, the ego mind wouldn't exist. It needs that struggle to sustain itself. So we're really giving ourselves in this practice the gift of not knowing, or the gift of realizing we cannot know. And a quote from Adyashanti: give yourself the gift of not knowing, and a vast spaciousness and mysterious openness dawns within you. So when we rest in that place of not knowing, dip below the chatter of the ego mind, rest in that place, this spaciousness, the mysterious openness, as Ajahn calls it, or the true nature or being, it dawns. We don't have to do anything. It just springs forward. It dawns within us. It's not something we need to create. It's always there. By resting in this place of not knowing, we allow consciousness or awareness to come to the fore. And this, of course, allows us to be with everything as it's unfolding, kind of an absolute unity or union with every part of our experience, of what's arising, where there's no longer a separation, because what the ego mind does is creates a sense of a separate self that then has to struggle with everything that's happening around it. This, and on the other hand, is a complete union, oneness with every part of our experience, with everything that's arising. So it's very alive, unknowing. Some of the Christian mystics called it the unknowing I. So you can also call it unknowing, I guess. The unknowing is alive and aware. And it's a natural awareness. Nothing you need to create or fabricate. As I said last week, you could call it an unaltered